I bought a ULEZ compliant car with a full MOT for £590. For quite a while now, people have been saying that ULEZ is pricing normal people off the road, saying that in order to be ULEZ compliant, you're going to have to buy an expensive car. Well, I don't think that's necessarily the case. You don't need to rush out and buy something like this, my 2021 Renault Zoe that I'm sitting in at the moment, just to have a car that's ULEZ compliant. There's actually loads of stuff out there that meets the criteria for ULEZ in London or all the other clean air zones across the country. And I have just gone and bought a ULEZ compliant, maybe not that sensible car with a full MOT for £590. Now, I didn't particularly need this car. However, when it came up at the price it came up at, I couldn't really say no. And it's been a while since I've trekked across the country to buy some old nail to hope I get home in. So let's have at it then. The route was Gloucester to Lincoln on the train, well, bus to start with, and then the train. I only ever tend to use public transport when I'm going to pick up a car. So it's been quite a while since I've had to do that, but the journey was fairly uneventful. I got pretty bored of taking these pictures at every stop after a little while, so we'll skip forward to changing trains at Nottingham and eventually arriving in Lincoln. After a short wait outside, the seller turned up in my beautiful purchase. Now, when you think of cars that are ULEZ compliant, you probably think of little econo boxes. So, you know, it could be a Peugeot 207, Vauxhall Corsa, at least a newer one, that kind of stuff. I mean, probably, you know, Renault Clio, something like this Zoe, but with a little petrol engine, not really anything that particularly sets your world on fire. You probably wouldn't expect this. It's a 2003 Audi TT Roadster, the convertible version. A 1.8 turbo petrol engine, and because of its emissions being 197 grams per kilometre, I think it is, the road tax is £365 a year. However, it is ULEZ compliant. It is clean air zone compliant in the various clean air zones. It can go to the low emission zone in Glasgow, and it's ULEZ compliant in London. I bet you didn't see that coming. Now, you'll probably say straight away, well, that's not really very sensible, is it? It's an old Audi. It's probably going to cost quite a bit to keep on the road. And yeah, you would probably be right. I don't think if you were actually, you know, really cash strapped and looking for something cheap to get you around, this would be where you were looking. It's a really good example of something quite interesting that's practically worthless, that you can drive around in if you're willing to roll the dice a little bit on repair costs. But let's be honest, if you're looking for motoring on a shoestring, it shouldn't really be where you're looking. Look for a Corsa, a Fiesta, something simple, something sort of run-of-the-mill from manufacturers like Ford, Vauxhall, etc. where parts are really cheap, they're really available. I mean, even the Volkswagen Golf, which this model TT is largely based on, right, would be a more sensible bet than a TT, and obviously be more practical. However, it does show really well what you can buy for really no money at all in this country, and that was the main reason I jumped on it when it became available. And I promise you, this car was £590, and it has an MOT until mid-October next year. Now, I know that is an absolute bargain, and okay, it looks a little bit scruffy in these photos. It needs a really good clean. I'm sure there's some silver wheels underneath all that dirt somewhere, but on the face of it, it could be a little bit of a bargain, and it doesn't need to be boring just to be ULEZ compliant. I drove home from Lincoln. That was 146 miles we did in that car yesterday evening, got back quite late, and it was absolutely flawless. Now, it does have a couple of little issues, nothing that stops it from being roadworthy, but has a couple of little problems that probably want sorting out just to have it at its best. But all in all, it runs and drives superbly. I was going to film the journey home, but given it was getting on a bit, and it's obviously we're moving into winter where it's dark, the footage really wouldn't have been very good. A lot of footage of me waffling away in the dark wasn't really what you were looking for. But we have a working, road legal Audi TT convertible for £590 with a year's MOT. Now, it's just a little 1.8 turbo with 150 horsepower, so it's not the exciting one. It's not the 180 or the 225 four-wheel drive versions, which are the ones most people think of when you say you've got an Audi TT. The first question everybody will ask you is, oh, is it a 225? Is it a 225 Quattro? Which obviously is the model to have. It's a 150, which they only offered in the Roadster, as far as I know. The hardtop version, they didn't even offer that engine, and it is front-wheel drive, it's not four-wheel drive. So it's a little bit poverty spec. It's got a cloth interior. It does have heated seats, though, which is quite nice. But at the end of the day, at this kind of money, at this end of the market, you can't really be too picky about things like options. But I think it will come as a great surprise to you that a car like this that is ULEZ compliant can be bought for such a small amount of money. I think it shows how bonkers the used car market really is in this country, where cars get to a certain age and they're just completely worthless. Nobody wants them. And yet it's perfectly usable. It got me home fine. No, okay, it's not the most practical car in the world, and I'm sure someone will tell me in the comments, oh, I can't get my 6 kids and my dog and that and that. And I get that. You need to look for something a little bit bigger, but ULEZ compliance versions of those do exist as well. And because I think quite a lot of people don't realise that an awful lot of petrol engine cars, after about 2001, 2002, are ULEZ compliant. Diesels, not so much. You're going to need really quite late model diesels in order to meet the requirements, but petrol engines are almost fair game. There are a few exceptions. You might find some stuff that's, 2003, 2004 that doesn't meet the requirements, but there's an awful lot that does, and there's an awful lot of quite interesting metal that does as well. So it's not quite the doom and gloom picture that people paint it out to be. Now, I'm going to do a few videos about my time with the TT. However, I know that for viewers of this channel, it's not really what you're here for. Obviously, it has a petrol engine. It's not electric, and therefore, there's a real risk that I'll upset the YouTube algorithm if I start pumping out videos about living with a petrol Audi TT. Even though that's kind of where this channel began ages ago, when I was doing sort of buying cheap cars and sort of swapping around a lot. And that's sort of where this channel grew from. Some of you that have been here right from the start, well, actually, some of you have been asking for more of that type of stuff. And so we're going to do a bit of that with the TT, but not on this channel. So if you want updates on the progress with what I think must be the UK's cheapest Audi TT Roadster, I want to head over to my second channel, which is called Hopeless Heroes. There's a link in the description, and there'll be a link at the end of this video as well. And that is where you're going to get updates on the TT. So that will be it for this video on this channel, and that will probably be the last you'll be hearing of it. But if you want to know more, head over to Hopeless Heroes, link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to that channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. And keep an eye out for how I'm going to get on with this ridiculously cheap ULEZ compliant 2003 Audi TT Roadster. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.